What was the worst part? What was your worst night there?
I think my worst night was when I got there the first day. Because after now, the search, once you get there, you strip naked. At times, it depends now with the officer that you get there. So for me, that particular day, I got there, very new, and I was ordered to strip naked.
Beatrice Muriu, at 16 years and 8 months pregnant, got into a fight with a boyfriend. He ended up dying. She was in remand for 3 years. A baby was born in prison. That was all 13 years ago. Her baby boy is 13. And Beatrice has been through hell and back to hell and back again. But look at her. You should see in the studio. She is smiling. I don't know what it is. So let's go straight to that story. So you were 16.
Oh, yes, I was 16.
And you were living with this man.
Yes. Prior to that, I was in school. And it was just a sad moment for me because I joined a school that was really not my choice. Even having scored a very good mark in my KCP, that's 406, I joined Karima Girls, which actually was not really my school of choice. That's where I think trouble started with my parents. It escalated to a point that I just became a rowdy and really in school. And I was expelled. And that, to me, was not a punishment, according to what I thought back then.
What were you expelled for?
Fights. Just became disrespectful, so many things. Because prior to that, I had 3 suspensions. Just because of getting into fights, being rude, just doing silly things in school. And I got out of that school, which to me, I just told my dad, thank you, I'm out of the school, finally. So when I got back home, it was tough with my parents. And staying there, I ended up running away from home to my sister who was living in Embu. And when I got there, she was having her issues, really bitter with me, because my dad retired and I was in class 8, second term. And for me, to get to Form 1, my sister paid my Form 1 school fees with her first ever salary. So it must have been a sacrifice for her. And now she feels like I have betrayed her, I've let her down. And now she really was not, she was also bitter with me at that particular time.
When did you meet this man?
This man, I had met him, and when I did my class 8, I went to live with my sister, and they had an end of the year party. That's when I had met that guy. He was a colleague, actually, to my sister. My sister was working in a certain bank back then in Embu. So that's, I think, when I first met them. But this time round, the guy, after I was staying with my sister a little bit, I ran away from my sister's place too. And I was now living in Embu streets. I was just there roaming. Then this guy comes in like, hey, Beatrice, are you not a sister to so-and-so? Yes, I am. What are you doing here? Then I give my story and, okay, I'm sorry. He picks me up from the streets. I end up being in his house. And that's how we started living together. Yes. So
how long?
We stayed with him, I think, for less than 1 year.
And in that time, you got pregnant?
And in that time, I got pregnant. Then he was moved from Embu to Nairobi. And one day, he came back home very drunk. And as usual, he was a violent man. At times, he would beat me up. He would just do things. Because I don't know whether he felt like I got pregnant, which was not in the plan. And I too, in my naivety, I didn't have anything to do with myself, like contraceptives or anything. I didn't know. So one thing led to another that particular night. I got several stabs. And in my defense, he was also stabbed, and after 3 days, he lost his life. That is how I found myself in Langata Women's Prison for a period of 3.5 years in remand section.
In remand?
Oh, yes.
So your child was born while you were in remand?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. I was taken to Kenyatta National Hospital. That is when I delivered my baby boy, who right now is He's a teenager.
So they took you to Kenyatta National Hospital,
yes,
under guard, obviously.
Heavy one. A capital remandee. I was escorted by 3 prison officers, one of them male and armed. And the other lady is just a constable, and the other one is a corporal. That is how heavily a capital remandee is guarded.
And then as soon as you gave birth and everything was okay, back to Langata Women?
Back to Langata Women's Prison after 3 days.
With your newborn?
With my newborn baby.
Good Lord.
Yes.
And how old were you then?
I gave birth to my son when I was 3 months to my 17th birthday.
Oh my goodness. 17.
Yes.
And you're a capital remandee.
Oh yes, facing a possible death sentence. Yeah.
So you're raising your child.
Oh yes.
You're in prison. What is that life like?
Hi. That one is the hardest life one can ever experience. For one, I had no experience of motherhood. The environment that you are in, nobody cares whether your baby is fed or not. Nobody cares whether your CS wound is healed or not. Nobody cares how you're going to handle yourself, because here you are healing a CS wound, a newborn baby is with you. At the back of your mind now I had now come to get the magnitude of what was facing me, because initially I didn't know. But once I got there, at least I got to know what was really going to happen to me. So you can imagine all that happening to you at the same time, 16 years of age.
Diapers?
Okay. I really want to thank my family, because they never let me even a single moment lack anything, either for me or for my son.
And it would come, the prison wardens would allow all this. I mean, it was okay?
Yes. The only thing that we couldn't just access was we couldn't enjoy the luxury of having maybe like detergents like Omo, the Jig, anything. But anything else was just okay by them.
Baby boy or baby girl?
He's a boy.
A boy.
Yeah.
Who is now how old?
He's 13. He just turned 13 last month.
My good. What's his name?
He's Genesis Muriu.
Genesis.
Oh, yes.
Does he know where he was born?
When I started opening up, I felt that there was some need for him to get some good counseling, for somebody to make him understand his background, so that one time, the internet never forgets.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish one day that he just wakes up and like, oh my goodness, I was born in prison.
Yeah.
No, so I had to just do some counseling to him with some other friends of mine, so at least he understands that.
And what did he say? What was his reaction?
Okay, at times I feel like he's kind of a young man who is yet to come to terms with everything, but he's okay with it. Like today, I told him, I'm going somewhere, and he said that ukienda huko nisalimie.
I am Salimie, Genesis, anasikiza.
Oh yes, Genesis and your brother. I hope you're now awake. I say hi and sending my hugs to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
How old is his brother?
The brother is 6.
6.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Langata Women's then? So you're in remand for 3 years?
Yes.
Capital?
Yes, capital
crime.
remand, yeah. I was never convicted. I was set free on the grounds that the prosecution failed to show the mens rea, that is the premeditation of the murder. Because for you to be convicted of the same, they have to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that you had planned this. But for me, I didn't have to, even because during the day, that particular day, we were in good communication. Actually, there's some money that was sent to me, and I sent it back to him. So there was good communication between us.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the meantime, the child is growing up in this environment.
Yes.
With other women prisoners and
yes, there were so many babies
being born.
Yes.
Huh?
Others came.
Kwani in kindergarten?
No. Some of them were coming there pregnant like I was.
Yeah.
Others were arrested with small babies. You'd find babies like 3 years children. She's a male prison officer, and then he's like, "Hi, Baba." They called them like that because they don't have these male figures with them.
Yeah.
You see, and you see, there are some good foundations that have come up there and set up very nice. We are more than this children's center for those children. Faraja Foundation has done that for them, so at least they've got good environment. But at least I remember when my son was around 13 months, my mom took him in, so I was left in prison alone.
And she was allowed. I mean, it was allowed.
Yes,
okay.
Because at the end of the day, I was the prisoner, not my son.
Right.
Yes.
But there are other children in there.
Yes, they are
Running around.
Oh yes. Until the age of 4, you are allowed to have your son or daughter there.
After that?
After that, if you don't have a family, the child is taken maybe to a children's home.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
My God. And tell me, how many women in a cell?
Back then, we were congested. Because I remember the place that I got in, that small house could have housed like, let's say, about 20. But we were more than 40, double the capacity.
In one cell?
Yes.
And you with the baby?
We were separate with the babies, but we also congested because we felt like we would have like 10 mothers with their children in a single cell.
10?
Yes, so you are there. So actually now you are 20.
Yeah.
Because a mother and your child, a mother and the child, yes.
In a cell?
Oh, yes.
Good Lord. How do you stay sane, Beatrice? How did you stay sane?
For me, I think I had undergone some counseling when I got there. And I also now decided that any opportunity that was coming, I was going to hop in.
What was the worst part? What was your worst night there?
I think my worst night was when I got there the first day. Because after now, the search, once you get there, you strip naked. At times, it depends now with the officer that you get there. So for me, that particular day, I got there very new, and I was ordered to strip naked. So you can imagine me here with my protruding belly, stark naked, holding my belongings, and then I was given now the uniform. I had to surrender my home clothes and now get the uniform. Prisoners wanaitanga kunguru. So I wear that one, and then you're going to be ushered into the cells. Then I hear another lady shouting at the background, "Kwa mama watoto kumeja." So you're like, hey, you're rejected there. So you just don't have any. So you're just there. That night was long, full of bitterness and denial. I was bargaining with myself with the what ifs and so many things. That was the longest night ever for me.
So you mentioned bitterness, yeah? Were you bitter at the world, or were you bitter at your youth because you were a rebel rouser? You were so...
I was bitter with everything. Life, myself, my parents. Like, I felt like these people should have listened to me at least. You know, there's an age gap between my sister and I. So at least I felt like I am a little bit different from them. I should have, like, because I remember at even time I had gone their route, done an audition for acting. Then I go back home and like, hey daddy, nimeenda ku act. Sasa like I'll be doing this. Hey, my dad. So that time, so I felt like these people have let me down. So like the society is not even understanding what is really happening. Okay, I was just in a crisis within myself. But with time, I stopped blaming anybody.
What kept you going, Beatrice?
I would say my family, the support they gave me all through. And there's also a project that we did in prison with a lady called Christine. It's called Celebrate Recovery Africa. That is the one that gave me a turning point because I was able now to release the bitterness, to release the pains, and I came into terms with what was happening. I stopped being in denial. I came to terms with what was happening to me at that particular time. I accepted what was happening, and that, I think, kept me going in a way. Because also I knew that someday I kept the faith, and I knew someday I'll get home. And that faith, I say, took me home when I was there, I really had this dust. I wanted to go back to school badly. I didn't want to waste myself. I knew I was intelligent and bright. So I really wanted to go back to school.
And now you're 20 years old.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What do you do? What's the first thing you do?
When I got home, the reality hit me. My family is damn broke. Even the thought of going back to school was now something else. Because it's so like they've used every resource to pay the legal fees. Now here I am. I don't know whether I'm going to get back to school. Then there was this lady. She kept on following up like, how are you able to integrate back to the society? Are there challenges that you're facing? Then I call and like, Christine, this is what is happening to me. I don't think I'm ever going back to school. I really want to go back. Then she tells me, no, come to Faraja. Apply for a scholarship. They might consider you. And I did that. And believe you me, in January, the following year, that is in 2012, I was in Yakembe Girls, back in Form 2.
Back in Form 2?
At 20 years.
At 20?
Yes.
And the average age in that room was?
I think the person who was just next to me was around 15.
So would they call you the mama of the...
Hey, it was tough. I really faced a lot of stigma in my high school. Because when my mom went to pick my admission letter, she just told the principal, how they explained the 4-year gap. I was in prison, blah, blah, I'm a mother. So at least the principal could know, as a leader of the society, could know how to handle me. That very information was also passed to the students. So you can imagine
so
what...
They all knew you were an ex-prisoner?
Yes. They knew I'm an ex, and they also knew that I'm a mother. It was tough.
And you were saying earlier on, prison life. I mean, it's there's a gang system. There's different kinds of gangs in prison. It's like in the movies.
Yeah, I think whatever happens in the movies is just something similar, not what happens within our prisons. There are things that happen there that I think there's a book I'm writing, and I've just given it a title. The 5 things I saw in prison that I would never want you to see. That is a chapter.
That's a chapter.
Yes.
The 5 things you saw in prison.
Yes.
That I would never want you to see. Give us one of them.
The prison gangs. They are tough and deadly.
Really?
And they are really bad. And especially once they notice they're a snitch, that whatever is happening in there, it's happening. You are leaking it to the authority. Of course, prisoners, just like it's known, they just have contrabands within their own setup. Once they know that this person is just there out, and you're giving the information and to the authorities, or maybe to some other people who are not supposed to know about it, my friend, you'll have it rough with them.
Will they beat you up?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Why at that time there was a term that we used to use, kufunikia blanket. You know what happens is they would just come, just know that you're the one. So it's Beatrice. In the evening, once the head count has been down, they've changed shifts and everything, now it's settled, they'll just come with a blanket. You're covered. You don't know who is hitting you. They don't even know where they're hitting you. So by the time you took up with you, you've had a very good massage.
And the wardens, I'm sure there was a lot of harassment. There must be.
Harassment was there, but not really as bad. Things are changing. Even the prison officers are now accepting the inmates and treating them in a little bit humane way. It is not as bad as it was.
When you were 16?
When I was 16. Even nowadays, I've been privileged to go back to prisons here once in a while, and I can tell you things are changing.
Tell me something. Have you been back to Langata Women's?
Oh, yes.
To talk to them?
Yes.
Did you find some of the people who were there when you were there as a 16-year-old?
Oh, yes.
Huh?
Yes, I found them. Some was.
Bado wako huko?
Kuna ingine Jeff nilipata wako still in remand, and others now are convicted. Some are serving very long terms, 30 years, 15 years, and others are now on life sentence, others on death row. It was just, the first day I was there, it was so emotional. Just,
Did you remember them?
Oh, yes.
Did they remember you?
We would know hug, cry, and it just felt bad.
Oh my goodness.
and hopeless.
Tell me, what do you mean that some of them are still in remand 10, 13 years later? What is that? What do you mean? There's remand.
Yes. I think it's the high time our justice system did something good. And I'm happy that the 46 judges that had been appointed, some of them are now going to serve. I'm happy for that, because that one is just going to do those people more good. People do not even differentiate, because they feel like once you are in prison, umefungwa. People do not know of a remand. People do not even know what really happens. Because I remember when myself I was in prison, my mom had to close her shop because of the things people are talking. She just couldn't take it anymore. She just had to quit that and just get back home. And now become a housewife, just to farm.
Because it was too much.
Now imagine this is just her shop. Next is just a hotel. And those village structures. I come from Nyandarua. We just mainly use Tiba. And how that poor Aziz with the voice. Yeah. Then men would come now, start having a competition in shouting in their conversation. They just pee in buckets. Those people are malnutritioned. Those people are just bad. Those people are just killers,
Loudly hapo na mama anasikia.
Yes, na mama anasikia. Alifunga duka na akaenda nyumbani. And if there is somebody that me, even when she left us, I still do not know how I would ever experience my gratitude for her. It's my mom. The shame and the fight my mom had fought for me. No, I just imagine how she, getting back with my son, leaving me in prison. Imagine now that village. The women now seeing you with a baby, and they know very well that baby's mother is in prison.
Right.
You can imagine. It just feels bad. Even in school, there was a time my son was very tiny, went back home and asked my mom, Shosho jela ni wapi? Because the children there would say, mama ya Kariu anakuanga jela. They used to call him Kariu because alikuwa kasmall sana. Mama ya Kariu ako jela. And those things happened, and my son was told like that, very small. I think he was barely 3 years.
Whoa.
Because my son joined school at the age of 2.5. Not because really he had attained the school going age, but my mom just had to take him there with a certain teacher just to take care of him. So that my mom can get the opportunity to now farm and maybe doing other things. So things were just tough. The stigma is extended to the families too.
Yeah. And that's why you were saying earlier on, you also want to help the children of inmates.
Yes.
Tell us how.
Okay, I've formed an NGO. It's called the Vine of Hope. Here, I want to work with the children whose parents are incarcerated. These children, I know they miss a lot of opportunities. They miss school. They miss important things that happen in their lives. The parental care and guidance, they don't have it. It's the high time that we stop the stigma, and especially to those children whose parents are incarcerated. Let's sanctify our society. Let's clear the mess. I think we all feel safe when we know that the area we are in is crime-free. Yes.
And you are also saying, Beatrice, that any one of us in this room, we are this close to ending up where you were.
A prison and a hospital. Everybody is a candidate. No matter your social status, no matter who you are. And this one goes to the youth. Let's just shun second-hand gadgets. Those ones are traps. Those ones are graves. Those ones can just change your life forever and ever.
Vine of Hope, it's called, right? What's the title of your entire book? You told us one chapter, 5 things you should never. What's the title of the book?
I call it The Experience is Not Always the Best Teacher.
Experience is not always the best teacher. Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. And what do you want to do after now you graduate next week from KU? What do you want to do?
Now I want to delve all my energies into the Vine of Hope, to make it running, because out of that, somebody's future will be saved. Yes.
Did you find God at some point? Did you, or were you always asking, why me, why me, why me?
When I found, no, when I know came to terms with myself, I was now teaching. I became even a teacher doing the Celebrate Recovery Africa. It's a Christian-based program by Pastor Rick Warren. I think he's an American pastor that we used to know to help people now come into terms with it. I was trained now. I started training my fellow inmates. So with that, I think it gave me hope. And especially moments that you'd fed people, now breaking and now like letting the bitterness out of it. That one was incredible. It was just something sweet for me. Yeah, and having grown up in a Christian home, in a Christian background, I've always had a reference for God. Because up to now, mi nikaanza kusema what God has done for me, because one thing, God has never let me get to that point where I'm giving up, because like literally when all the doors are shutting on me like this, like I even didn't even have a hope that I'm going to graduate. I had not done one of my exams. Somebody just watched that story somewhere, wrote an email, and then started talking, and then like, what do you really do? And then I just opened up. Right now I'm just home. I'm just doing nothing. Actually, right now I'm not doing much. Yeah, I'm into small business and farming, farming is just, wow, right now. Nyandarua, things are chaotic.
Beatrice, I'll give you the last word. Go on. Give people hope out there. Talk to people who are listening to you for the very first time.
I really appreciate those people who get inspired by my story. And for my critics, thank you. I've learned a lot from you. And I always say, I look back, not with pride, but I look back and say that if at all God changed my life like this, yours can change too. There is no that dark moment of your life that cannot be changed into something better. Try and make a lemonade from that lemon life gives you. We may be having different issues, not really going in prison. You could be there suffering, maybe some chronic diseases, hard stuff. But always remember, there is life after that. Be a goal-oriented person. Look forward and just see the future other than the problems that you're having right now. And so the parents, always encourage your children, have dialogues with them. To the teenagers, my friends, please learn from my story. It's not that beautiful. It's not that thing that you keep on talking about, but it was a mistake I made, a grievous mistake, but it has cost me more than anything. It's not easy being a parent, a student, a worker, and just making things. It's really hard. It's really hard. Juggling those roles, it drains you. But I'm lucky and I thank God for everything, and especially my family. I'll never tire to thank them. They really played the largest role for being whom I am today.